And welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. I just saw Warcraft, so what are my thoughts about it? Well, I'm about to give my full review right now. Okay, so a while back I did do a review of the Warcraft trailer. Now this is way before the movie ever came out, and at the time when I initially saw that trailer, my first thoughts were Lord of the Rings, and I wasn't really feeling the special effects, and I didn't know much about the story, and nobody did really when the trailers came out, but a lot of people knew that it was going to be based upon the original Warcraft and not the World of Warcraft MMO game that we all know here in the modern days. Now, I will put a warning out there that if you have not seen Warcraft, the movie, I definitely recommend you go watch it first, because I am going to give away a lot of spoilers, and so if you don't want to know everything about this movie, then go watch it first, and then you can come back and watch this video. Now, as I was watching this movie at the beginning, Lord of the Rings, I can't get that out of my head. And throughout a lot of the movies, I really thought a lot about Lord of the Rings, you know, and there are so many elements that goes back to the movie. And besides that, one of the things that I was really worried about in this movie, based upon the trailers, was the actual use of the CG. Now, the CG in the trailers, they look really fake, plasticky, and I'd have to say I was kind of surprised by the actual use of the CG here. And as the movie opens, whenever you see the main orc, Durant, I think that's his name. I can't remember all the names, but Durant, and you see him and his wife, and when they're just talking there, it looks so good. I really have to give it up for, I think it was ILM who did this movie, so you know, they're not amateurs, and so that scene was really good. It evoked a lot of emotions. And as a matter of fact, as you're watching through the whole movie, the actual CG orcs actually had more emotions, in my opinion. They did a lot better job of getting you in the movie than the actual human characters themselves. And speaking of the human characters, you know, Lothar, who reminds me so much of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, and the young wizard Khadgar, and the half-human, half-orc Gordon. Boy, I'm really messing up this name. And then there was the king as well, and I can't remember his name, but those are the primary characters that you're dealing with initially. And then by the time you get to Maldives, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of like confused, you know. And the reason I say that is, if you are a fan of Warcraft, meaning you have kept up from the very first Warcraft all the way to the World of Warcraft, a lot of this stuff will make a lot of sense to you. But for most people, they don't know anything about the Warcraft world. And so for somebody who's never played a Warcraft game, or who doesn't know the lore, the story, the history behind it, you could be really lost really quick. And for me, I played the Warcraft 1 through 3, so I was always into RTS, you know, real-time strategy. Warcraft, that's what I remember, and this is what this movie's based upon. But I got lost completely. I mean, and that was kind of hard, because they expect you, at least the movie maker, who's Duncan Jones, he's the director, the people who wrote the movie. I really think this is more for the Warcraft fans, because it goes right into it. It doesn't explain a lot, you know, especially about how the various kingdoms are set up in Azeroth, or the orc history, where did Godan come from, and then this mysterious power fell, which is pretty much like the dark side, you know, so you don't really know a lot of those things, you know. And then also there's a lot of back history behind a lot of these other characters too. For example, Lothar, not only is he basically a really awesome warrior, but you know, he also has a young son who is also becoming a warrior in his own way. And as you're going through this movie, and I'm skipping around a lot, but basically the whole premise of the movie is Godan uses the Fel power, and that's the Fel power takes people's or beings' lives. In this case, he took creatures, orc, whatever, from the orc world, the dying orc world, used that to create a portal to get into Azeroth. And Azeroth isn't just humans, you know, there's dwarves, there's elves, there's like 7 other creatures that live in this particular world. And so when they come in, okay, you get into the story, but the story doesn't matter too much. It just really doesn't. It's just basically, hey, we're gonna come into your world, and we're going to take over, and we're going to use the Gul'dan's going to use the power of the Fel to take it over. And then when you actually get to like Maldiv, and it's played by Brian Foster, or is it Brad Foster? I can't remember, but he just seems way too young to be the guardian or this all-powerful wizard. And the same thing goes for the king. I know some other reviewers have mentioned it, and I kind of thought it wouldn't make a difference, but it does. When you're actually watching the movie, it does make a difference. I don't know how to explain it, but in Lord of the Rings, you know, the people who have the most power, the most wisdom, you know, most people who have that, they're usually a lot older, so they could gain that experience. You know, in this case, everybody's really young, you know, except for maybe the orc king, Gul'dan, or the wizard, and maybe Maldiv's assistant. You know, other than that, everybody's pretty much young in this movie. And as you're going through the movie, I actually, I'm not gonna lie to you, I actually got bored through parts of it, you know, because I wasn't really invested in the characters, and a lot of them die. You know, Durtan dies, his wife, I can't remember her name, she dies. Luckily, their son, he makes it in a river. Reminds you of like the Moses, as a matter of fact, from the Bible, which is kind of funny. And then also, when you're going through this movie, you know, there are different classes of people, different creatures. Like I said, there's wizards, mages, there's warriors, there's orcs, and then you have the, I think it's the Valkyrie. I don't know, it's just, I think if you are going into this movie expecting it to be similar to Lord of the Rings, and I'm talking about this from just a movie viewer, you'll be disappointed. Now, there are scenes that remind you a lot of Lord of the Rings. You know, there's a portal reminds me of the Eye of Sauron, that battle. There's the wizard's castle, and that reminds me a lot of the Lord of the Rings main castle. And yeah, the rest of the movie, I just couldn't really get into it at much at all, you know. Now, the action scenes, they were good at some points, you know. They're very brutal, especially whenever the orcs have their hammer and they're smashing down on another orc or another human. It's pretty vicious, you know. And the special effects overall, they were good. I mean, the moments with the orcs, I think, were the best, but all the rest of it, you knew it was CG, and it just didn't look really that good, in my opinion. Okay, and then by the end, when they had the final battles, they kind of had this dual battle thing where Durtan was fighting Gul'dan, and then on the other side, Khadgar and Lothar was fighting the evil Maldiv. Very underwhelming. And even the very last battle, where it's Blackhand versus Lothar, it's underwhelming, you know. And by the time it ends, and the baby of Durtan and Drakkar, I think that's her name, you just didn't really care, you know. So yeah, so basically this movie was just okay. If you're a Warcraft fan, I think you'll like it a lot more, but just as a movie by itself, I didn't really, you know, wanted to enjoy it more, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would, or as I wanted to. But I didn't hate it neither. So it's an okay movie. I wouldn't recommend to pay like top tier price, like for IMAX or anything for this movie. You just watch it in a standard movie. But you know, you gotta have your expectations ready for this movie. So that's it for my full review of Warcraft. Now, if you had any thoughts or any ideas that you had about this movie, if you've seen it, be sure to leave them below. And as always, you could also send me a snap if you're on Snapchat at Geek Outdoors. And we'll see you on another episode.
Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.